Ողջույն սիրելի հայրենակիցներ, ողջույն պարոն Սաֆոյան, շնորհակալություն, որ միացել եք Հայթեք զրույցին, շարունակում ենք մեր գլոբալ տեխնոլոգիական զարգացումներից խոսել, հաջողված գիտնականների, գործարարների, տեխնոլոգիական ոլորտի առաջադեմ մարդկանց հետ։ Այսպիսով այսօր խոսելու ենք ամպային տեխնոլոգիաներից, cloud technology, շատերը օգտագործում են Google Cloud կամ այլ cloud ամպային համակարգեր, որոնք մեզ հնարավորություն են տալիս ոչ թե մեր ունեցած սարքավորումները, այլ տեղ տեղաբաշխված եւ ավելի հզոր կամ ավելի մեծ հնարավորություններով հագեցած տեխնոլոգիաներ օգտագործել ինտերնետի միջոցով, այդպիսով հասանելի դարձնելով այսպիսի սարքային եւ ծրագրային թանկ տեխնոլոգիաները աշխարհի տարբեր հատվածներում։ Այսօր իհարկե մենք հյուրընկալել ենք մեր ամենահաջողակ գործարարներից Սադա ընկերության գլխավոր տնօրեն Տոնի Սաֆոյանին, ով մեզ կպատմի իրենց գործունեությունից, իրենց հաջողության պատմությունից։ Պարոն Սաֆոյանի մասին նաև կուզենայի նշել, որ 2015 թվականին արժանացել է Ernst & Young-ի ձեռներեցության մրցանակաբաշխության տարվա մրցանակին եւ նաեւ կոչ կանեմ մեր հայրենակիցներին հաշվի առնելով պարոն Սաֆոյանի ունեցած փորձը, գիտելիքները եւ հիմիկվա այժմյան Sada Systems ընկերության որպես տնօրենի ամբողջ հնարավորությունները եւ գիտելիքները հնարավորինս շատ հարցեր ուղղել կոմենտարիաների, մեկնաբանությունների տեսքով, որոնց ընթացս անդրադարձ կլինի։ Պարոն Սաֆոյան, ողջունում եմ ձեզ այս դժվար ժամանակներում, ինչպես եք, ինչպես է տրամադրությունը։
Բավականին լավ է, շատ շնորհակալ եմ, որ ինձ տեղ հրավիրել եք, անշուշտ ես անգլերենով կշարունակեմ գործի մասին խոսալ, բայց շատ հաճույք է իմ համար։
Շատ լավ, շատ շնորհակալություն ձեզ լավ եթեր եմ մաղթում եւ լավ երեկո մեր հայաստանյան եւ համապատասխանաբար օրվա տարբեր ժամերին, մանավանդ որ դուք հիմա Լոս Անջելեսում եք, բարի օր եմ մաղթում այդ կողմում, աշխարհի մյուս կողմում գտնվող մեր հայրենակիցներին, բարի եթեր եւ կտեսնվենք։
Thank you. Ուզում եմ ասել, որ եթե ինչ-որ հարցեր ունեք, խնդրում եմ, որ չամաչեք հարցերը տակ եւ ես ինչ-որ կարող եմ պատասխանել, անշուշտ կուզենամ պատասխանել ինչքան որ ստեղ եմ. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I encourage you to ask in the comments and I will love to answer them as the conversation is happening. So let me tell you a little bit about Sada. Sada is an amazing immigrant story, and I'm extremely proud that immigrating here from Armenia in 1987, we're able to build something like this that's quite unique, not just unique of Armenian creation, but unique really around the world in what we've built. And 20 years will be celebrated for the company's existence in August. So it's kind of a big anniversary. We'll call it the quarantine anniversary, 20 years. So we're really proud of that. So Sada is a family business. It was founded actually by my parents in 2000, Hovik and Ani Safoyan. And I was finishing university and working a couple of other jobs, and it was actually a really bad time in the economy, if you recall. You know, currently there's some economic challenges, but Sada was formed in the midst of a huge economic downturn in the United States and around the world. So that gave us some unique perspective. But I joined in January of 2001, and we were a Microsoft partner. There was no cloud in 2001, let alone Google enterprise technology in 2001. So we started very traditional application development. And early on, we actually had some development teams in Armenia. I remember writing .NET software, etc. And so as the business evolved, we were always seeking something that could scale, something that would be impactful and groundbreaking for the customers that we serve. So we tried various business models, from managed services to line of business applications, etc. And in 2006, as the business was growing and we had a growing Microsoft business, we ran into Google Enterprise, and it was brand new. There was maybe 50 people in all of Google that worked on their enterprise technology, which was different than their consumer technology. And we fell in love with the promise of using Google's technology to impact change in customers that were businesses and enterprises and organizations. So there's a little bit of luck, but also I think alignment with that vision that this was something potentially transformational. So we started doing work in enterprise search. Google found out that we know about Microsoft technology, that we knew about application development, and they tapped us on the shoulder to launch G Suite, which was transformational and revolutionary at the time. But G Suite for higher education became the standard. Every university started to adopt G Suite as their standard email platform because it was free for the universities and was much better than what they were using before. So then we had these two businesses. We had the Microsoft business, which also was entering capabilities in the cloud with Office 365 and Azure, and Google, which we started to diversify, not just enterprise search and G Suite, which was email and collaboration, which also enterprises were starting to adopt from the universities, but also, GCP and Azure, the space that directly competes with AWS. And about 2 years ago, my father and I were talking about long-term strategy. How do we really scale this business? And we had a very successful, quite well-known Microsoft business. Well, we had a Google business that was larger and growing faster. And, we felt that if we were really to do something amazing and fantastic, we really had to focus. And we made the very tough decision, but I feel like the right decision to divest about the 82 people or so that were in the Microsoft business unit and proceed, creating something quite unique, which is a relatively large Google partner that was only selling and delivering Google Cloud. And when I say Google Cloud, it's really the whole ecosystem of Google Cloud technologies. It's G Suite, Cloud Search, Maps, Chrome, and of course GCP. So that leads us to today. So for 2 years in a row, we won the Global Reseller Award from Google, meaning that for 2 years in a row, nobody has sold more Google technologies than SADA has of any partner. And we only focus on US and Canada. And those are the only markets we actively sell in. So I'm actually quite proud of that. Of course, it's a matter of how do you continue doing that. I believe in this is an infinite game. It's just because you win 1 year, it's not 2 years. It's great, but we always think about what's next. And then, of course, right in the midst of getting this award, this crisis hit. Not only first China and Europe and of course Armenia, but the United States, and the whole world sort of paused. So then we were sort of like in crisis mode, right? All of us were, all of our clients were. So because SADA has been around for 20 years, certainly we haven't seen a crisis exactly like this, but 20 years is a long time. You get to live through a couple of different big economic downturns, right, in your career. And so we weren't really concerned or worried about how to handle it per se, because we had somewhat of a crisis handbook. But of course, this was like nothing else that we'd ever seen and the world had ever seen. But to me, the playbook is relatively straightforward. Focusing on what you can control. It's really the three areas of focus that we concentrate on. And for us, first and foremost, it's our people. Primarily the people at SADA, the families, the humans, their health, their well-being, not just physical health, but a crisis like this and the stay-at-home orders and everybody's lives being turned upside down with children being at home, with schooling and all that stuff. It's actually, it's emotionally very difficult to handle. So our people operations team and of course all of our leaders shifted 80% of the focus to how are our people doing? How do we shift and be productive and happy and successful working not from the offices that we're accustomed to, 9 offices across US and Canada, to completely a work from home environment. Again, cloud comes to the rescue from a technology standpoint because we had been ourselves, of course, using G Suite and other things. The technology was not the challenging part. And we were relatively fortunate, right? 10% of our customers or enterprises in the US who had prepared for something like this through aggressive adoption of cloud technologies early, the technology shift was not easy. And I'm talking about some very traditional companies you would think, and organizations you think that they're not very forward-looking. City of Los Angeles, who's our client, didn't have problems shifting work from home. State of Arizona, tens of thousands of employees, not difficult. Colgate, others, right? It wasn't difficult for them because they'd been on the cloud. So the focus wasn't that the technology was the barrier. It was really like, what is the practical, physical, emotional state of being happy and healthy in our employees and their families, so that their well-being became top of mind, right? So once we had a good motion around that, the next emphasis became, how do we help our clients now? And I'm a big believer that nothing is a bigger test of culture and execution ability than a crisis. How you behave and act in a crisis is precisely what remains in people's minds and memories for many, many years to come. And this is where the close alliance with Google Cloud actually really motivates us, and it influences us because their culture is also very sort of caring and people-centric. So Kirsten Kliphouse, who runs Google Cloud for all of the Americas, she had this mantra that we ourselves followed, which was, this is a time to serve and not sell. Serve, not sell. So that's what the position that we took ourselves, right? Which was relatively natural for us anyway, but it's so good to have your biggest partner completely aligned. So it was all about, how are our customers doing? How can we roll up our sleeves and help them? Some other major customers who were in the middle of a transition to cloud but didn't have the ability to shift to work from home. How can we go all in to accelerate these projects to help them as quickly as we can? How can we work with Google on financial relief for some of our customers? They need extended payment terms. They have cash flow issues, et cetera, right? Like, there's all these things we shifted completely on taking care of our customers, because we have 2,000 plus customers. We believe that they should be our customers for life, and we knew that would be judged in this particular moment in time. And there's also some big initiatives. So from a shift in individual customers, which are customer success teams, account management teams, sales, everybody really marketing, rolled up our sleeves to address both one-on-one. We actually also had the opportunity to partner with Google to release major initiatives like, hey, not every customer has Zoom or some other video conferencing technology. They need that right away. How do we do that? We partner with Google to release Google Meet for everyone. So Google Meet for all 2 billion Gmail users on the consumer side, they can have enterprise class capabilities around meetings so that they can do their schooling from home or run their small businesses from home. But also every enterprise could get Google Meet at no cost until the end of September. Oh, and by the way, SADA would implement those technologies in a highly structured and secure fashion inside of these organizations, also at no cost. Again, us and Google coming together to alleviate not only the financial burden of a customer who can't, maybe doesn't want to invest in this today, who can't, but also to create new capabilities in their workforces. So tens of thousands of employees we've helped migrate across dozens of organizations in public sector and in commercial customers that they didn't have to pay for and won't even have to consider paying for the license itself until end of September. And that's quite remarkable. That's it shows you the orientation of Google Cloud as an organization and how through partners they can impact so many customers. And that's just us. I mean, many partners did this all around the world. Just, hundreds of thousands of people that work at companies now use video conferencing as the default, maybe for the first time, because they hadn't made that switch yet. We also partner with Google Health, the healthcare organization. And again, they funded, and we partner with an organization called HCA, which is actually the largest healthcare organization in the United States. Hundreds of hospitals all around. It's the largest by revenue. And HCA, with their healthcare data, Google Cloud, and their funding and technology support, and SADA actually doing the development of what's called the National Response Portal, which was a way to get healthcare data from multiple organizations, not just HCA, and then build an interface, a mapping technology that not only tracks COVID cases, but it tracks county by county, city by city, the number of hospital beds that are available, what the density is of cases in relation to the number of hospital beds, so that people can track and cities and counties and states can track, like, what is their capacity to handle an exceeding volume of these types of cases. And other promotions like within healthcare, Google Meet in healthcare specifically, to enable telemedicine at a pace that not every healthcare organization had figured out yet. It's like what this crisis has done most, I think, for organizations is, and for the world, it has surfaced and elevated every deficiency, every weakness, every inefficiency in every system. Telemedicine, we've been talking about it for 10 years, 20 years, but nobody thought that every healthcare organization would need to have telemedicine right now. So Google Meet is one of those technologies we deployed, not only for patients to interact with doctors safely, but also for families to be able to see their family members safely that are in the hospital, that they're not allowed to visit, that they can't visit, right? Contact center AI, which is part of the GCP solution stack. How do we deploy rapid response capabilities for organizations, counties, etc., so that people en masse can get information about COVID-19 with a AI-driven, chat experience, a dialogue flow experience. Some of these systems were feeling the impact of usage scale that they just weren't built for, didn't expect, didn't have enough people to answer phones, etc. And those types of technologies being deployed to enable some relief in at least the sharing of information during the crisis is really, really important. So the other thing we focused on, so there was just tons of work. Look, I'm extremely proud of our team right now, the way that everybody's showing up. We all feel busier than ever, frankly, and the level of productivity in so many of our teams is just extremely, extremely proud. And then, of course, the last thing I'll say about what we did is, of course, we run a company. We are self-funded. We don't have debt to pull from, like, the financial resilience of our own company. Like, for our company to be healthy financially, to be in a position to help customers, and to be in a position that we don't have to lay off our employees was important. So we started getting, with our own teams, just extremely open around our financial situation, what our concerns are, what we're watching for. And we just started tracking the financial engine within SADA extremely closely to make sure that we were going to be in a position to help our customers. And if they had problems, we could be there to support them. So, those are the three areas of focus during the crisis. And I think what we're seeing in the last 2 to 3 weeks is, we were inward facing maybe 80% of the time before. Now we're outward facing again, maybe 60% to our customers, not just in the spirit of serving them, which we've been there for, but we're seeing an immense demand, an accelerated demand for cloud technologies now, much sooner than I thought. By the way, I thought, and I'm relatively good at predicting things. Sometimes I get the timeline wrong, but I thought in a quarter or two, customers would start to want to accelerate their cloud projects. I was wrong. That's actually happening already, which caught us somewhat by surprise. Of course, we're ready, but what I'm seeing is an extreme demand, an accelerated demand for every organization that they realize they need to transform digitally. That if they do not transform digitally, they are not going to survive, right? And there's two general types of digital transformation. There's one that's strictly focused and anchored on cost savings. And look, if an organization needs to undergo massive cost savings, cloud and Google Cloud has solutions for that. The other type of digital transformation is just innovation. They need to go from a retail organization that has no way of their customers buying from them unless they physically walk in a store to completely a digital strategy, or manufacturers that need to go from retail to direct to consumer. And those aren't just cost saving measures. Those are existential questions of their future relevance as an organization. And the trends we've been seeing in cloud over the last 5 years, we knew that the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, 2000, doesn't matter how large of an organization it is, many traditional enterprises are in a lot of trouble. Healthcare, retail, media entertainment is changing completely, manufacturing, consumer goods. And we knew this, and we've been working on many of these projects, but they all thought they had 5 years to do this, 10 years to do this, like all the time in the world. But this crisis has exposed the fact that they actually don't. The world is changing faster than they ever thought, that they're not prepared for anything major, and the cloud is the answer. So we're seeing that level of acceleration, and it's just immense, and it's happening quicker than I thought, which is obviously, again, we're fortunate to be in a position to help with us and Google Cloud. We have answers to solve whatever challenge that they're facing along those lines. And that's where we're seeing the increased demand. And we also, of course, been working for last 5 years plus in GCP and other technologies on all the startups. So this is also something we tell our traditional customers. Again, they could be Fortune 100 customers. It's fine. Doesn't mean that they're safe, because for every one of them, there's 100 startups, not just in the United States, but around the world, that are working they're well-funded, ran by really smart people, and they're working extremely hard to disrupt whatever traditional business that customer thinks that they're in right now. So it's an exciting time. Cloud is going to accelerate even further. Digital transformation is not a choice that customers can take years to decide on. And again, we're fortunate to, I think, have bet on the best technology on the planet. Again, it will be a multi-cloud world, but we feel like there's many things quite unique about the Google Cloud strategy and the technology itself. And yeah, it's a challenging but exciting time if you have the right orientation around how to operate and support your people in these times. Are there any questions that have been posted? I love questions.
Yeah, we have many questions. Thank you. Harut Abajan is asking that given the current global pandemic we are experiencing, do you think people will return back to a normal work environment in the office, or is working from home the normal moving forward?
So this is a very interesting question, and I know there's different philosophies around this. There's certain organizations that already had a very much a work at home culture to begin with, and we have been fans of creating offices. Like, we opened 8 other offices around the U.S. and Canada, so people had the opportunity to get together a lot, even if it's not every day. And I think there's something magical about that, and I think that there's no substitute for that. So I do think that wholesale, everybody's in the office again, culture will, for some organizations, it may never come back, but I think it will come back eventually. And I do believe that there's no substitute for in-person meetings or teams of people on a whiteboard working on an idea. And I think Satya Nadella, actually, CEO of Microsoft, published something along those lines that, yeah, this is great, but flexibility is great. These tools are great, but we believe that things will eventually trend back because there's something quite magical about being together.
Yeah, thank you. Pavel Sinovchan is writing, "Hi Tony, glad to have you on the call. Hope you and your family are doing fine. Got 3 questions. What do you think the impact on technology spending and investment if there is a global economic downturn?" You can answer, then I'll...
Sure. So, overall technology spending may go down a little bit. And I think cloud accounts for maybe 8% of all technology spend globally. Still, it's quite small. It's remarkably small. So I think whereas overall technology spend may decrease because people will buy less hard assets, I think cloud as a proportion of the overall spend will increase dramatically. And that's what I foresee.
Thank you. The second question, what are the main challenges SADA is facing now, and what is your plan to overcome it during this global economic crisis?
Our challenges were a little different 2-3 months ago. Our challenges, short-term, mid-term, were always about talent and people, and how do we get enough engineers, and what do we do to really win the talent and culture hearts and minds of our current employees and our future employees. And I think that's still going to be a focus. Long term, it's always about the people in your company. You have to have an environment where the people experience is exceptional from the first interview, the first call, to their last day at the company. Even when they leave, it has to be on just a great experience, so that they always talk fondly of their time at the company. And that's still, we don't want to lose that emphasis, because we always talk about people experience even before we talk about our customers. Our people, most important. The other challenge, though, is I don't think we'll have a growth challenge per se because of what I said about demand, but I worry about how many of our customers will experience financial problems they can't overcome, or a strategic problem they can't overcome in 2 or 3 quarters from now. And how can we be in a position to help? That's the other challenge, is making sure, our customers are going to be okay. And if they have, file for bankruptcy or so, which a couple of them already have, Forever 21, other retailers that we service have filed for bankruptcy. And it's a terrible thing because they didn't transform. It is too late. But, I worry about that second of all, after our people.
Okay, thank you. What would be your piece of advice to all Armenian IT entrepreneurs and companies on how to go through this crisis and make most of this situation?
Take care of your people first. Make sure that they're great. We never want to lose the fact that, whatever your title is, somebody works for you, whatever title they have there, first that they're a son, they're a mom, they're a dad, they're a daughter, they're whatever, right? Like they're a grandpa, they're a grandma, they're a human before they're an engineer. And remember that. And I think your employees will remember that if that's how you engage with them. But beyond that, I think just know that cloud is the great equalizer. It's cloud democratizes technology. There's no borders, no trade agreements for the most part, which are a hindrance to cloud. And Armenia has no ports, but it's okay because cloud doesn't need ports to change the world. Yeah. And it's going to open up even more possibilities for the fantastic work that is being already done in Armenia by so many bright minds, supported by the minister. I think especially in the new paradigm, Armenia has never been in a better position to make a global impact.
Sure. We have another question about SADA. Does SADA have any office in Armenia, and what are your plans about Armenia?
We don't have an office in Armenia, and we used to have at some point, and that was a long time ago. And I think things in Armenia have changed quite a bit. It's we have decided for now to focus strictly on US and Canada customers, right? That's where our go-to-market is. And if we were a product company, like we were just developing products, it would make all the sense in the world to have offshore, especially in Armenia, given the fact that we're Armenian. But for now, my belief is, services are different. Services are different. And every market in the US is different. Believe me, even people in Chicago don't want to be served by people in Texas. You may not believe it. People in Toronto don't want to be treated like, Canada is a 51st state of the United States. The hyper-local market approach is really, really important in services. And that's why we've opened so many offices. So it's not something we've discounted forever. But services are just quite different. They're different for product. Product companies makes all the sense in the world. It would be tremendous. It's something that's always in the back of our mind, but the current strategy is we have to have a hyper-local strategy, even within markets in the US. San Francisco versus LA, different markets. Portland versus Seattle. Seattle versus Vancouver. They're only like 20 miles apart, but trust me, Vancouver thinks it's its own market. So I have to have people in Vancouver to serve Vancouver. It's that. Even in the US, it's a very hyper-local mentality.
Thank you. Armenian government is planning to enable the entrepreneurs that with grants to promote, to make them more product-oriented. So we're promoting as well. So I guess
fantastic.
We have deal and we have worked jointly in this direction as well in Armenia. Another question from Felix Romanos. Hi Tony, I would like to use your ability of predictions and ask you which industries you predict to be on rise after the pandemic. Thank you.
Which industries to be on the rise? So media, the consumption of media is completely transformed, media production, right? And so traditional in-person event related media is in trouble, where streaming is really transformational, and content is king. So anybody who's creating content is really important in terms of people's media consumption. What does sports look like in the future? What are other competitive things that people can get into in the future is really interesting. I think B2C, direct-to-consumer retail, if you read about what Shopify has seen, and Shopify runs on GCP, on Google Cloud, the demand on retail switching to a direct-to-consumer model are very, very important, and will be retailers and manufacturers who don't figure that out will literally not exist in a few years, I believe. And healthcare. In healthcare, let me tell you, healthcare, we have so many healthcare customers. It's probably the biggest concentration of our customers. They were somewhat in trouble before in the US for many reasons, but now it's just very, very obvious that that industry, maybe more than any, needs to transform completely. And I've mentioned two others really in the public sector realm. Education, obviously. People thought the traditional college four-year degree experience with these very high prices didn't make that much sense before, especially in the digital world. I think all those paradigms will be challenged. And around education, both K through 12, but really mostly, I think higher education will feel it the most. And, you know, public sector, I think we've seen our customers who have public sector customers, their ability to serve their residents, especially in time of crisis, if they are a digital organization, in whether it's City of LA or State of Maryland or State of Arizona or Chicago Public Schools or Chicago Department of Transportation or Seattle Department of Transportation, like if they've gone digital, they are providing a enterprise class experience for their residents. Those that haven't, they can't answer their calls, they can't answer their emails, they can't get information out fast enough. So I think government needs to transform and treat itself like it is an enterprise, like it is a startup, and remove all the legacy and technical debt that's preventing an exceptional experience for your customers, which are your residents and your constituents. Yes, they are customers. And I think government will transform as a result of this current crisis.
Thank you. And another related question about it, Vahan Yevazaryan. What is the role of cloud computing in coronavirus vaccine research? How could computing benefit healthcare research, and how healthcare organizations are making use of cloud computing in general?
So cloud has been deployed in life sciences for many years, even before cloud. You know, life sciences was one of the first users of, you know, sort of on-premise, hyperscale, computational capability. And I think most life sciences organizations, as they're doing their research and analytics and looking for computations around new combinations of chemicals, etc., and DNA modeling, there's no faster way to do those kind of computations than in the cloud. The Broad Institute in Boston actually created a framework running on Google Cloud, but you could also choose other clouds for high computational research tasks, algorithmic tasks, and they allowed any nonprofit to sort of consume it. And again, 5 years ago, to do that level of research, you need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, or like Michael Ames, who now works for us, $15 million on, you know, Oracle hardware and software to do it. And then as you try to do more work on the platform, you would max it out 2 years later, right? Today, you can start with hundreds of dollars and turn it on to do massive computational work, and then turn it off when you don't need it, and only be charged for that work. So the economics in enabling any research institution to do extremely high degree of computational work is tremendous. And again, this, when I say democratization of technology, that's evening the playing field. You don't need $15 million anymore. You just need the knowledge and the will and experience and expertise on your team. And you can run immense calculations in cloud-based technologies that were impossible, you know, just even 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Thank you. And maybe more social question. Moderna is developing a coronavirus vaccine. Founder of Moderna, Nubarafian. Are you familiar with it? Or
I'm not. I haven't been tracking the vaccine work very closely, to be honest.
Yeah. At the moment, we have no other questions. We have words of gratitude and pride from Shant Melkonyan.
My uncle.
Yeah.
Hi, Shant. My godfather.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
You make my pride. Thank you. Full to the top.
Thank you, godfather.
Thank you. So we can evaluate, and if any questions arise, we can ask our audience to write in the messages as a message, and we'll continue with it later.
Sounds perfect.
Thank you very much for your empowering and the inspirational talk.
Thank you.
And
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We can evaluate.
All right.
I guess.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.